Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
All you listeners, all you viewers, welcome back to Live from the Heartland for our finale. We saved some of the best for last. And it's our trusty sports reporter, sometimes political commentator, longtime cousin of me, Adam James, out there in California. Hello to you, Adam.
Hello, Michael. Great to be on the Live from the Heartland show again. Thank you so much for having me.
You're always good. Tell us a little bit about the Super Bowl. Give me a wrap up on that. We'll do a little football and then we'll go on.
Well, it was a great game. I mean, that's the one thing that we always ask for when it comes to this big build up and this eventful, game. It's more than just a regular game, and it paid off. It was a really terrific matchup. 49ers played great. Unfortunately, they came up short. Those who root for that Chiefs team and their fan, they certainly had a good time, and it was a lot of fun. One thing I will point out that last week when we were doing our pre-show, and I mentioned this guy number 95 who plays for the Kansas City Chiefs, the defensive lineman. For those of you who are out there who are former linemen who love to watch the trenches, that 95 had an amazing play right at the end. Kind of reminded me of Aaron Donald when he made his dynamic final play, ending the Cincinnati Bengals Super Bowl run. Chris Jones pulled it off, made a fantastic play that affected the outcome. Great job.
Love watching the linemen. What about the Bears? The Bears got a couple of people went to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so it was a big win for the Bears. Yes, sir. It was a big win for the Bears over this last week as well, because there were a number of players who have been Bears in the past who got in, including Dwight Freeney and Julius Peppers, who both had played for the Bears. But the two guys, Devin Hester, who's probably the greatest return player, punt returns and kick returns. Now, of course, he reminds a lot of us Bear fans of the great Gale Sayers. So Gale Sayers had a big impact on my life and my heart. Although I was too young to have watched him growing up, I read his book, I Am Third. And that's the book that actually was the inspiration for, television movie with Billy D. Williams and James Caan. And it was a terrific movie. And that was based on the book, I Am Third, which was Gale Sayers' life story, his autobiography. And in it, his message is, in his life, third, he dedicates himself to doing those good deeds in life.
Adam, let me ask you about the potential first-round pick of the Bears.
Yes, but wait, one last guy I got to mention, and that's Mongo. That's the great defensive lineman. That's the lineman theme today. Steve McMichael, who got into the Hall of Fame. And of course, there's a funny story about when he first came to the Bears, and the defensive coordinator coach, Buddy Ryan, who was a real tough guy, he came over and he said, "You've been working out, you in shape?" And he said, "Yeah, I got a dog, and I've been running every day with this dog. And that dog's got me in really great shape." And then that first day of practice, Steve McMichael had a hard time with those wind sprints. At the end of practice, Steve McMichael was having a hard time with the wind sprints. And Buddy Ryan came over and leaned into him and said, "We should have signed the dog." But it turns out Steve McMichael was a dog. He was a tough SOB. He went on to be a part of that 85 Bears team that was probably the greatest defense to ever play football. And, the Baltimore Ravens will argue that one. But definitely up there.
No, I was there. I saw that Super Bowl in New Orleans.
That's right. You were actually there. So you're one of the few Jameses who's been to Super Bowl. My father, David James, went to Super Bowl number 7 when the Miami Dolphins beat the Vikings. And then you got to see the Bears.
I went to 2. I was at the Steelers and Seattle. Detroit also.
That was a great game. That was
what about the Bears' big draft pick and all that? Who's going to be our quarterback? Do you know yet?
So that's the big controversy in regards to should they keep Justin Fields, who's been a fantastic player. He's really a good citizen, good teammate, good part of the community. But it has to do with the fiscal components of football. He's going to be getting a new contract soon. His amount that he's going to count for on that salary cap is going to be higher. It makes a lot of sense for the Bears to trade Justin Ken for him. Wish him well, put him in a good spot because he's earned it, and then take that quarterback out of USC, Caleb Williams, who I've had the fortune of watching out here in Southern California. It's a heck of a quarterback. He has a great arm. He's a little bit like Mahomes in that he's got a lot of creativity, really sharp guy. I think the Bears are going to do great with him or whoever they take. Wishing them the best. One thing's for sure, that coach of the Bears has got to perform these next 2 years because they're going to give him a chance to work with this young quarterback, and they better show some results or they're going to move on, and that's going to be tough on the young quarterback to change coaches after only a year or two.
Well, we'll see what happens. I kind of like Justin Fields. I don't mind if he sticks around. Let's go to a little women's sports. What do you got? Because we don't have too much time today.
Well, I watched this amazing game over the weekend. I don't know if anybody else got to see it. It was the Iowa Hawkeyes playing at Nebraska. The Nebraska women's team sold it out. Amazing crowd. They won in the last second in a really close, exciting game. What I thought was really interesting, at the end of the game, they interviewed the head coach who'd played basketball at Nebraska, and they'd never sold out the stadium like that. And for her to look around that stadium and to see that crowd and to feel that energy, how much that meant for that program, for those women that are playing there, but also for the sport of women's basketball, the sport of women's sports, period. Whether it's softball, soccer, basketball, it's doing really well right now. Another area of women's sports that's somewhat controversial are combat sports, boxing and MMA. There was a time that women weren't allowed to do those sports. Well, not only are they allowed to do it now, they're thriving. There's an amazing women's sports athletes who are doing extremely well. Big crowds, lots of fans, and great performances, terrific athletic, going out there and getting it done and doing really well, looking sharp doing it. So,
Well, Adam, one of the things I know you're into is the mental training for sports. And
yes,
talk a little bit about that. Give us some inspiration as we go out today.
absolutely. Well, I regularly teach seminars on mindset or getting into the Zen zone, the mental conditioning, mind training. It comes from my martial arts background. In the martial arts, this is very common. It's increasingly being done on a very scientific approach, psychologists. And essentially, there's some really powerful techniques that we can all incorporate prior to performing in our sports. But every day, if we can take a moment, we can actually develop this skill set. It's kind of like, conditioning your body, going out and going for a walk, lifting some weights, going for a swim in the pool. That's going to condition you, make you fitter. The same thing is true for these mind training techniques. First of all, I highly recommend everybody is mentally active. You read, you interact with others, you have intelligent conversations. That keeps you mentally sharp. But these techniques are also proven to be very effective. The first is meditation, or just clearing your mind, settling yourself, getting into that clear thinking state. The next is to use affirmations, which are short, powerful statements that affirm or put solidly into your thinking these beliefs, these attitudes. It's kind of like throwing a stone into the water. If the water's choppy, that stone will have no effect other than flopping in the water. You want to see that ripple effect come out. So it starts with meditation. It starts with calming your mind, using deep breathing. The rhythm of breathing, you practice that to clear your mind and bring yourself into the now, to the present moment. And in that moment, when you use those affirmations, they'll have more effect. The next technique is visualization, where you use essentially your power of your imagination to see yourself achieving these great feats that you're for. Now, this is obviously great for sports. If you're a tennis player, you imagine yourself hitting that winning shot. But it's also effective for a dancer as you think about having that perfect spin, that landing just in the right spot, or a singer, or a business person in the office saying just the right thing at that moment that creates the business deal that brings about the success for the company. As you visualize yourself having that successful moment, you then anchor that emotional state, that mindset, by using a physical a power word, another little affirmation, to connect yourself to that emotional state. Because then what you can do is you can trigger it at any time with a snap of your fingers, whether it's a clapping of the hands, whether it's a fist bump, and you say your powerful word, I can do it. Whatever that may be, the more you do that, the more you develop that mental connection to that statement, and you can bring it forth in a moment. You're up there at the free throw line getting ready to shoot the winning shot. You do your affirmation, you do your anchoring technique, and then you put yourself in that Zen zone, that mental state where you're connected to the best of yourself.
Well, Adam James, you always seem to be in the zone, and I appreciate you coming on the show. And there's a lot more on this long list you gave me, but we're going to have you back on, if not next week, soon thereafter.
Well, I look forward to it. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Wishing everybody out there very happy New Year and all the best.
Right, Happy New Year. Yeah, well, it's February. Happy
Happy Lunar New Year. May the year of the dragon bring you success and prosperity.